Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Mess. So today I got a fun and exciting episode for you guys this evening as we're taking a look at the recently released translation from mod of Waku Waku Puyo Puyo Dungeon. And if you can't tell already, this is not the Puyo Puyo game that you're probably familiar with. You're not going to be stacking any sort of puzzle pieces in a Tetris manner. This is a light RPG dungeon crawler taking place in the universe of Puyo Puyo. And up until about 4 days ago, it's something that you could never actually play in English. It was a Japanese exclusive that never came over to the West. And even though you could probably poke through it and try to get towards the end with all of the Japanese as far as the story is concerned, which is quite deep in the game, as well as all of the menus, shop items, and subsystems, it would be very difficult to get any progress in without having a walkthrough open right to your side. But now, as of today, you can download this game and play it in full English, and honestly, it's absolutely outstanding and definitely a game any Saturn fan should check out. Before we get too further involved, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Definitely helps us out. If you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, got a Patreon link down below as well. If you haven't noticed already, the combat is pretty much real time. You are on the actual dungeon play field, and you don't go into a second screen to be able to actually compete in the game. But you'll see there I died. It can be quite difficult off the top in all the best ways, and I love this intro screen here as well, going from the kanji for Waku Waku Puyo Puyo Dungeon over to the actual translation exhilarating Puyo Puyo Dungeon. And like I said, this game has an absolute ton of story. You're going to see a lot of it right here. It basically just explains what's going on in the universe of the game, who the characters are, and why you should care about them. And honestly, a dungeon crawler is good enough to play even if it doesn't have a story, but getting all of the different character motivations, understanding why they're here, what their goals are, goes a long way to endearing the story to you and you actually caring about making progress. Because at least for me personally, if I'm trying to poke through a game and I can't understand the language, I do have fun as far as the mechanics are concerned, but I never really get attached to the game. I remember I played the original Yakuza 3 in Japanese on PlayStation 3 before it came to the West. While I absolutely loved the gameplay mechanics, not understanding what was going on really did kind of make it not that much fun. So that's where people like Mod come in, giving us awesome translations of really good Sega Saturn games that you've probably never heard of before, or if you have, you've never played. And honestly, recently there just seems to be a metric crap ton of translations coming out. And I would say as far as the overall language translation here, it's conversational, it gets the point across, it's got the jokes that it needs to. And as far as all of the different text formatting, the kerning, all of the different punctuation and capitalization, in my entire time playing this for capture and just checking it out, I wasn't able to find a single error in the translation. Not like those are that big of a deal. Modders go in and patch them up all the time, but honestly, as a first draft, this thing absolutely excels. I really, again, couldn't find a single thing with the translation to point to saying, oh, that period's in the wrong spot, or oh, that word is misspelled. And again, the story in this is quite charming, and I love that gigantic tower in the back with the Puyo Puyos on top, basically acting as the surface to mount the flagpoles. This game has absolutely amazing 2D artwork, both in these still images as well as in the actual dungeons and overworld map. This game is going to give you enough meat on the bone. You're definitely going to get into it, but it's not the longest RPG, so you're not going to be sitting down for 100 hours either. And I love this overworld map here. You're going to see all of the different dungeons you can visit, along with all of the different shops, but only one of the dungeons is going to be available from the start. That's going to be the one right in the middle. If you try to go to any other dungeon, you're going to get some story reason why you can't actually go in at this point in time. Maybe you need a ticket, maybe you need to convince someone to let you through, but it's basically a progression system with checks involved, so you can't just jump into the final dungeon of the game. Because trust me, you're going to have to be very careful when you're playing this game. All of the level ups and all of the progress you make, you have to get back out of the dungeon to save them. And you'll see here, you do have some decent attacks off the top, but you need to get some money generated and some level up generations before you're actually going to be able to take on those later dungeons, because this game definitely doesn't hold your hand. It's got a decent amount of challenge, and of course, like everything else, the entire menu system, including all of the items and systems, are going to be in full English, which makes a huge difference. And it is a Puyo Puyo game, and they always have great soundtracks as well. So go ahead and listen for 45 seconds. I'll come back and tell you more about the translation. But enjoy. Honestly, I just love the soundtrack, and if you're going to be crawling a dungeon that's bright and cheery, getting a bright and cheery soundtrack along with it goes super well. And I do think that Puyo Puyo translated excellently over to an RPG style game. Of course, this is not what the series is known for. It's just kind of a side story to the overall Puyo Puyo universe, but it does work, and I love the slightly isometric view here, all these fun bright colors and the overall graphical vibes with the sprites as well as background layers. This game looks absolutely outstanding in motion. However you play it, just know that I'm playing this on MiSTer FPGA today, but I did check on Mednafen as well as my Saroo cartridge, and it loaded up every single place, and I'm sure if you have a different optical disc emulator for Sega Saturn, you should be perfectly fine as well. And now we've made it over to the second floor of Puyo Puyo Dungeon. You got to get through all the floors, and that is going to take a minute. The one thing about the game is it likes to load slightly slow, just giving you that information on the second floor right here, but otherwise there really isn't anything else about this game or the translation that I could point to and say I don't absolutely love, and it just goes to show how much love there is out there for the Sega Saturn. There's been a ton of new games, there's been a ton of translations. We have the in development FPGA core. It seems like suddenly in 2024 and 2025 everyone remembered that the Sega Saturn existed and wanted to do cool things with it, and I absolutely love seeing that. It is a system, even if it did fail in North America, got a ton of love in Japan and has such an incredible library of games. But because it was way more successful in Japan versus North America, so many of those games that you'd love to play are just in Japanese, and that's why it is great that modders like Mod come around and actually make these things available, because it's just kind of a love letter to the fans. Modders aren't making a ton of money, if any money at all, doing these things. They do it just because they love the games, they love the system, and they want more people to enjoy it. And again, just having the options menu here in full English, you can see on all of the text, the fonts look perfect, everything is formatted correctly, the fast, off, and normals are perfectly lined up. You can tell a lot of work was put into making sure that everything looked like this game had just been translated back in the day and brought over to the West, kind of that same loving translation and effort that somebody like Working Designs would put in back in the day on Sega CD or Sega Saturn. And it's just fun to get more games. Sega Saturn has an amazing library in Japan. There's definitely some titles that still aren't translated, so leave me a comment down below and you tell me, of all the games in Sega Saturn Japan land that you can't currently play because they're in Japanese, which one would be the one that you'd love to see happen next? I always like hearing your guys' feedback, and you guys name some games even I've forgotten about. But one more soundtrack sample, this time of the shop music, as it is quite good, and I'll be right back with just a little bit more. Not only is the shop music soundtrack great, it also sounds amazing on the work in progress MiSTer FPGA core, and most importantly, now when you go into the shop, you'll have some idea of what the hell you're buying. Last time I tried to play this game, just poking around for MiSTer FPGA test, trying to actually go into the shop and understand what you were getting was a crapshoot, and if you spent your gold on the wrong thing, you basically set yourself back in the game. But now, obviously, from start to finish, this game has been translated. I'd accidentally just stepped in a mousetrap there, but I did talk to a few people who are huge Puyo Puyo fans, and they've both played through this game, seen the credit scroll, had no issues whatsoever with the translation, with its function. There was no freezing or crashing, it just worked, and they were absolutely stoked about that. And trust me, if you're looking just for a fun game to play, a light dungeon crawling RPG that isn't too easy, isn't too hard, and gives you save points on every single floor, this one's definitely for you, because one of the best design elements of this game in general is that every time you find a new floor, you can create a suspend save that will delete itself when you reload the game, basically just giving you kind of a quick save option and a quick load option at every single dungeon floor. Because one of those things, maybe you got 2 hours to sit down and play, maybe you only have 20 minutes to sit down and play. It kind of accommodates that for everybody. But honestly, I love the Sega Saturn affection that we're seeing in 2025. We're seeing a lot on the Dreamcast side of things too. It's been a hot 18 months for Sega as far as their hardware and games are concerned, and I hope we see this continue. So definitely check this one out. I will leave a link in the description below for the translation. You're going to lose nothing but time by playing it. You're going to have a fun time at that. But we are done. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.